You ever see a man watch his car burn to ashes right in front of him while the guys lighting the fire wore the same badge he did? Yeah, that happened. But here's the thing those two thugs in uniform didn't know. He wasn't just another man in a uniform. He was their boss, their police chief. And what they set on fire wasn't just a car. It was the final straw in a lifetime full of slaps from a system that never wanted him to stand tall. Let me take you back. His name was Calvin Mercer, 46 years old, born and raised in the dusty back roads of East Elridge, Georgia. Youngest son of Ruthie and Silas Mercer, she was a school teacher who taught history with a fire in her chest, and he was a mechanic who could fix anything with grease on his hands and gospel on his lips. They weren't rich, but they were proud, and Calvin? He listened. He watched. And every time they passed a sign that said whites only, or got whispered at in church for being too educated, his mother would say, "Son, knowledge is how we fight. Dignity is how we win." So Calvin read everything he could. Books from the library, old case files from his mom's former students, police manuals he found in yard sales. Didn't take long for folks to start calling him the Quiet Storm. By 22, he'd already crushed the police academy's graduation list. By 30, he was the first black lieutenant in the entire county. By 43, Chief Calvin Mercer, the man running the force that used to look at him like a ghost in their ranks. But the badge doesn't erase history. It just hides it better. Now, on this one October evening, Calvin was just driving home after a much-needed break. Long weekend at the lake with no phone, no news, no politics, just pine trees, beer, and memories. He was behind the wheel of his prized ride, his restored Dodge Monaco Cruiser, silver with blue stripes, a gift to himself on his 40th birthday. The sun was setting, golden light flickering through the treetops, and all he could think about was his wife's gumbo and the creak of the porch swing. Then, a roar, a slam, bam! A black SUV clipped his back bumper and sped ahead like it owned the damn road. Instinct kicked in. Calvin didn't flip out, just flipped on his lights, hit the gas, and caught up within seconds. Standard procedure, he figured. Reckless driver, probably drunk. What he got instead was hell in uniform. Two plainclothes officers stepped out. Didn't recognize him at first. No name tags, no greetings, no chief. Just eyes full of contempt and mouths full of vinegar. One was tall and square-jawed, Lieutenant Mason Doyle. The other, wiry and twitchy, Sergeant Brent Kessler. And from the moment they saw Calvin's face, something shifted. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Doyle sneered, inching closer like he was checking inventory. Not a man. Calvin kept his voice calm. "Chief Mercer, you just rear-ended my vehicle. Explain yourselves." Kessler spat near his boot. "You think wearing that badge makes you one of us?" Doyle chuckled. "You're just a mascot, a token, dressed up like you run the place." Now Calvin could have snapped, but years of holding in, of keeping it together when folks tried to knock him off his feet, had taught him restraint. He said slowly, "This isn't just disrespect. This is insubordination and assault." What followed wasn't an argument. It was a beating. Before he could even reach for his phone, Doyle punched him square in the ribs. Kessler slammed him into his car, twisted his arm behind his back until bone cracked. Calvin gasped, knees buckling, as they dragged him across gravel like he was some street punk, not the man whose name was on every precinct wall. "You think you're immune just 'cause you sit in that big chair?" Doyle hissed. "This ain't about rank. It's about power. Real power." And then, they torched it. Kessler, grinning like a demon in a frat party, flicked his lighter near Calvin's fuel tank. And in seconds, whoosh, flames climbed up the side of the cruiser. Calvin watched, helpless, as the car he built with his own hands turned into an inferno. Doyle laughed. "Look at that. Your legacy. Gone. Bet you wish you'd stayed in your lane now." And as the fire crackled, they reached into his pockets. Wallet. Gone. Phone. Gone. "Consider it a fine," Kessler smirked, "for pretending to be something you're not." Then they drove off. No badge number left behind. No explanation. Just laughter fading into the dark trees. Now, most people would have laid there. Broken ribs, shattered arm, no phone, no help. But Calvin? He got up, step by step, mile by mile, bleeding, bruised, with pain in every bone. But he walked, through the dark, through the forest, for hours, each step a vow. And when the town's lights finally shimmered through the branches, he didn't head to the ER. He walked straight into the station. The room went dead silent when he burst through the doors, uniform torn, face swollen, shirt soaked in blood. One rookie officer nearly dropped his clipboard. "Chief Mercer?" "No time," Calvin growled, voice hoarse but steady. "Get me every damn unit on patrol. Now." Within minutes, the whole department was in motion. Radios lit up. Dispatchers scrambled. And Calvin? He wasn't just giving orders. He was commanding war. See, here's the thing. Those two officers thought they broke a man. What they really did was wake up a movement. Surveillance teams were dispatched. Highway checkpoints formed. And while the rest of the city slept, Calvin sat in his office, pain shooting through every limb, but eyes sharp like steel. He wasn't just hunting criminals. He was about to gut the rot out from inside his own house. Hours later, tip came in. 2 unmarked officers seen speeding toward the old quarry road. Isolated, no cameras, one way in, one way out. Calvin stood, ignoring the protests. Lieutenant Carla Reyes, one of his most trusted, helped him into the cruiser. And as they rolled through town, every officer they passed stood and saluted. Not because of rank, but because they knew. This wasn't a man seeking revenge. This was a man delivering judgment. At the quarry, headlights cast long shadows between the trees. SWAT teams had already positioned, snipers on ridges. And Calvin, slinging his broken arm, stepped into the clearing. "Doyle, Kessler, you've got one chance," he shouted, voice echoing like thunder. "Come out with your hands up, or we come in." Silence. Then, movement. 2 figures stumbled from the woods, disheveled, pale, shaking. Kessler tried to raise a hand but dropped his weapon instead. As they were cuffed, Doyle muttered, "Chief, we didn't know." Calvin didn't flinch. "You knew. You just didn't care." Later that night, back at the precinct, Calvin stood outside their holding cell, looked both men dead in the eyes and said, "You'll be charged with assaulting a superior officer, civil rights violations, and official misconduct. I'll see you in court, and I'll testify myself." Doyle whimpered, "Please, show mercy." Calvin's voice went cold. "You showed me fire and gravel. I'm showing you the law." And just like that, 2 men who thought they were untouchable became a warning to every badge that ever turned dirty. But Calvin wasn't done. The next morning, emergency meeting. Every department head, civil rights leaders, prosecutors, community elders. "We're doing an audit," he announced. "Every complaint, every abuse of power, every missed red flag, we reopen them. And if you're part of the problem, you're gone." People said it couldn't be done. Said it would cost too much, stir up too much trouble. But Calvin didn't flinch. He restructured the entire training program, set up outreach with at-risk teens, started bringing in civilians to review use of force cases, and for the first time in decades, people started to believe again. A year later, at the annual safety forum, a 16-year-old girl, Maya Thomas, stood at the mic, one of the teens Calvin had once mentored. Voice shaking, she said, "Chief Mercer, you taught me that justice isn't about who yells the loudest. It's about who refuses to stay silent." Calvin just nodded, eyes glassy, because the job wasn't done. Hell, it might never be. But for once, something was different. And that's the story. 2 men set fire to his car thinking they'd torch his legacy. Instead, they lit the flame that burned the corruption out of his department. But here's the part I want you to think about. How many Calvins never make it back to the station? How many get left in the woods? How many times does the system eat its own and walk away clean? So now it's your turn. When do you think racism will truly end? What needs the deepest reform? People, power, or the policies that bind them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because silence is how injustice wins. And this story is how we start talking back.